resume the recording. I'm still trying to get a couple people in. They keep getting kicked off, so we'll just work on that one as we kick things off. And Terry Maxwell here, and I'm excited to bring some of these thought leaders together. Three very different businesses, all with a very common purpose. And I'm going to talk just briefly about the rise of conscious business and some post-COVID trends, which are very fascinating. Then our first leader is going to step up and we'll put the spotlight on his business. It's an amazing business. It's called EarthHero. And what Ryan's going to really share is how to get in the mindset of swapping one purchase for another purchase that is a more conscious purpose. So it's going to be a real game changer to see how easy it is to be more sustainable. I know that his leadership and vision has had a huge impact on me trying to walk the talk. And he's made it very easy to do that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the purpose economy and the 3 Ps and how sustainability fits with that. Then we'll have our second spotlight, and an amazing entrepreneur is going to share with you how art and sustainability come together. Then we'll talk just really about what it means to be a conscious leader in this area of sustainability and why it is so important that we make better decisions. And then our third expert will talk about solar, which I believe is one of the most important investments. If you're an investor, I would, would urge you to really look at solar as an investment. It's got a lot of potential to do good in the world, but also to give a good ROI. And then lastly, we'll just talk a little bit about authentic business growth. So with that, just a little bit about my background. I run a portfolio called Share on Purpose, Inc. It's kind of like a purposeful Shark Tank. We cultivate business ideas, and then we also invest outside our portfolio. I've made more mistakes than you could ever imagine doing that. It sounds really wonderful, but it was really, really hard. But the really cool thing, and as we cultivated businesses, as I was able to develop a methodology called Conscious Business Growth Platform. And each one of these circles represents what the entrepreneur needs to do to get the business to the next level. That's what SHIFCO is based on. What gets your business to $10,000 a month is not what gets it to 30. What gets it to 30 is not what makes it to $1 million. What makes it to $1 million is not what makes it to 2, and so on and so forth. So that methodology has resulted in the creation of 5 companies, SHIFCO being the 5th, and a lot of hard, painful, expensive lessons along the way. We do these events about every week to 10 days. The next 2 that are coming up next week, we're going to be talking about the entrepreneurial mindset and how to get yourself into the mindset of a champion so that you can win. We also have a couple of experts that are coming together to talk about powering business growth through photography the week after that. So feel free to join us for any of these events. And now let's talk about what we're here to talk about. And that's really, how do we create change? We're all called to this business. Like, the business as a conscious entrepreneur chooses us. It's not like, oh, I'm setting out to build this purposeful Shark Tank. It's like Share on Purpose and Succeed on Purpose and SHIFCO chose me. And I would say, I know Ryan will probably talk about this as well, but EarthHero chose him. And this, when we're really called to do this meaningful work, where we're really standing in that power and letting the business really be born through us, it's a really magical and sometimes daunting task. Today, there are over 15 different conscious business organizations and SHIFCO is obviously one of those, but we share a single goal, and that is making the world better through conscious business. Conscious Capitalism and B Lab, 2 of my favorites. Sustainability Basics is important. Conscious Business Institute. I mean, I could just go down the list. There's so many. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the test of corporate purpose. And then one of my new favorites is domoregood.com. And there are more popping up, but all of these businesses these organizations are existing to help conscious businesses, conscious leaders, and conscious entrepreneurs do more good in the world as they build a profitable business. And I'm going to share a couple of facts for you in terms of both why conscious business and sustainability is so important and also how it's changing. Good Must Grow is one of my favorite sources of statistics, and I visit their site every month or so and look at the latest and greatest. And one of their best performing reports and infographics is this idea that purpose is still important, but trust matters more. Why that matters with conscious business and sustainability. If I'm out there and I'm saying, oh, we're a conscious business, but we are not making conscious choices as it relates to the environment, then I'm out of alignment with my purpose. And I know I've had to face that reality and rethink everything. You know, the choices that I make of using, you know, a water bottles when I'm thirsty versus is there another option? What else can I do? The toothbrush, you know, I didn't know that toothbrushes hurt the environment as much as they do. So that this idea of being a trusted leader and really the kinds of things that matter now when people are making choices, 76%, how does your company treat its employees? How trustworthy are you seen? Are you protecting the health and safety of your workers? Are you operating locally? Are you having a positive impact on the society? The second one that they did, the Conscious Consumer Spending Index, it was fascinating because, and this was done at the end of 2020 in terms of the impact of COVID, significant gains. And the really great things, they did a pre-release of their second update to this. And this trend, this where you see that sharp curve of the yellow line is even higher as we went from 2020 into 2021. So what that means is consumers are making a significant different set of choices post-COVID than ever before. And I believe as conscious leaders, we are accountable and we need to make better choices. And it's one of the reasons why I asked my friend, Ryan, I feel like he's a brother from another mother or something. He's truly one of my all-time favorite entrepreneurs, to really talk about his vision and to talk about how we can make better choices. So Ryan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Terry. That was really informative and inspiring. All that information, and I look forward to diving into some of those websites. I don't know about all of them, so thanks for sharing. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Ryan Lewis, founder and CEO of EarthHero. And like Terry said, this concept, this brand, this movement sort of found me. And we can talk more about that, but I really was drawn to want to help the world in this capacity. And really what we are is a community of world-changing brands. We've got about 200 brands on earthhero.com today that consist of over 5,000 vetted products for their sustainability. We're a B Corp certified, we're a member of 1% for the planet, and we also operate carbon neutral. We're really building the world's largest marketplace, sustainable marketplace, and our aim is to make sustainable shopping so easy that we all do it. Below here, you have some categories that we've got on our site today. Really, we are strong in personal care, zero waste items, home supplies, baby and kids, pets. Really, again, we're building sort of that one-stop shop. So every time you want or need to buy something, we've vetted a product that is the most sustainable version of that particular product. And you can go to the next slide, Terry. Yeah, so just take a step back. Why does EarthHero even exist? And really the way that our products, traditional products, are made today and consumed is killing our planet. Next slide. And the reason for that is just the mass plastic production, agriculture, and mining are literally stripping the planets of our natural resources and trading that for pollution, toxins, chemicals being put out into our air, leaching into the water, and leaving behind single-use products everywhere. At EarthHero, we're here to change that. Again, we're really trying to curate the world's most sustainable shop. So you can shop in a way that fits your lifestyle, fits your values, and know and trust, as Terry mentioned, that these have all been vetted, these products. And just to talk about a little bit about how we source and vet our products, this is what makes EarthHero unique and authentic. We take this very seriously. We call it our 5-stage sourcing methodology. And really what that means is we start with what the product is made of. So we look at the materials and or ingredients, but also beyond that, we look at the company itself. Are they manufacturing in a sustainable way? Are they treating their employees well, especially if overseas? We look for certifications, fair labor, and other ways in which to hold them accountable. We also look at packaging. We want to make sure both the shipping packaging and the product packaging are as sustainable as possible and create a zero waste experience to the end user. We also look at the ethos, mission, and why a company was founded to make sure that there is an authentic mission behind the business. A lot of times that means there's a give back or philanthropic component built into their business. So as they grow, more good happens. And then finally, we don't really source or upload any products that don't contribute to a more sustainable lifestyle. As we go through that research, and score various brands, we also extract these sustainability attributes and create logos or icons for each one of these attributes. And then if you go to the next page or next slide, we map that to all the products that they apply to. So in this example, it's bamboo utensil set. Bamboo is very sustainable. It's the case is made from recycled water bottles. To Go Where is a B Corp. They do have a charitable component, and this helps reduce single waste cutlery. So that's pretty much how the site works. And as Terry mentioned, one of the biggest questions I get is like, where do I go from here? How do I do better? Like, what's a next step? And that's one of the things that we really promote here is no matter where you are on your sustainable journey, there's always that next step. So just to go through a few categories here, take the way that we do dishes pretty much every day, right? In our house, you can ditch the plastic filled liquid soap and sponges that are recyclable and waste for a dish block that sits on a bamboo soap tray. And you can use a fully compostable dish brush with replaceable dish heads and essentially go without really ever creating waste in your kitchen. Another category would be oral care. Again, you can ditch the plastic-filled toothpaste tubes and plastic toothbrushes for toothpaste tablets that come in glass jars or compostable bags, or even we have toothpaste tubes that are curbside recyclable when they're empty. And as far as toothbrushes go, we've got bamboo compostable toothbrushes. We also have plastic toothbrushes that are made from recycled content if you're wanting to stay with that form factor. Another area would be clothing. A lot of our traditional clothing comes from really petroleum-based resources. So things like nylon, spandex, polyester, even traditional cotton uses a ton of pesticides to grow. You can swap that out for more organic, natural fibers like hemp, bamboo, and even we've got some organic cotton is good, and that it avoids the pesticide use. And for more performance-oriented apparel for like working out, there's a lot of apparel made from recycled content as well. Laundry, another waste-intensive process traditionally with, again, plastic bottles and liquid. Dryer sheets, you can ditch all that for dryer balls. Healthy pods. We even have these True Earth laundry sheets where you actually tear them and you just put them in your washer. And then the dryer balls help with static and serve some of the same purposes that dryer sheets have, and they're made completely from wool and pretty much last forever. So that's laundry and ways to do better. And then finally, the last category I would mention is, technology, something that you don't typically think of when it comes to sustainability. We have compostable phone cases, believe it or not. We have lots of technology cords and chargers and things like that made from recycled materials. So just an example of another category that you maybe wouldn't traditionally think of.
That's amazing. I did not know that, Ryan.
Yeah, I've got one right here. These are just, they're great. And the thing is, like, with all these products, they're quality. You're not sacrificing what you would expect in terms of longevity, functionality, just optics. We really we don't want to go backwards in any of those categories. So these are just a few examples. There's hundreds of ways to sort of level up your sustainability effort, and really from a perspective of like, how to think about this is, look at your trash, look at your trash can every day, and that's the greatest indicator of how you can maybe do better. Ask the question every time you take your credit card out to buy something, how is this transaction going to impact the planet? And if you don't know, get curious, because there's not that much that you really need to know to make a huge difference in the way that you shop and consume.
Ryan, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Of course.
Talk a little bit about the awakening. That story really transformed me in terms of the way that I thought of where you really came up with the idea for EarthHero, because I know you went through this journey of trading this for that, but what was the epiphany? Tell that story just a little bit of your origination story of EarthHero.
I was always inspired by nature. It was just sort of an innate thing that was built into my wiring. So I think living most of my adult life in Colorado, I was surrounded by these beautiful mountains and nature. So just and also I've been fortunate enough to do some traveling and seeing some of the most beautiful parts of the world, and knowing that this is all worth fighting to protect. I also was inspired by a number of entrepreneurs that built businesses to do good. Tom Shoes was a big moment for me. I read his book, Start Something That Matters. It's just a real quick read. But yeah, Terry, when I was in a more traditional business, it started to really grow on me that I wanted to, if I was going to spend all this time away from my family and, with my career, that I wanted to make sure that it was helping the world in some tangible way. So just the concept of creating a conscious business was there, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I sold that business, and my family and I moved to Costa Rica for a year and a half. And my intention was to get them some good experiences, take a little bit of a sabbatical for myself to figure out what to do next. And in that process, we sold all of our stuff. We didn't know how long we were going to be down there, but the process of getting rid of actually like everything I owned, we sold our cars, our furniture, our house, like everything. That was kind of my epiphany of like, wow, I consider myself almost a minimalist, or thought I did. But when it came, by the time I got to 40 years old, just offloading all this stuff was liberating, but it was also like really anxiety producing. It was definitely an eye opener. And I made the commitment at that point that I would never buy anything again that I didn't want to keep like forever. I was just so over stuff. And then down in Costa Rica, beautiful place, as you can imagine, but when you're living there, it was there's trash everywhere. I was in the water, on the beach, in the mountains. There's just single-use styrofoam, plastic, just all over the place. And I came across this book called The Story of Stuff, which detailed out specifically how much damage linear consumption is creating. So from extraction to transportation to manufacturing to use to landfill, rinse, repeat, 7 billion people on the planet. That was my moment where I was like, okay, this is totally wrong. Is there a better way? Is there a better way that exists today? And if not, what kind of effort would that take? And flash forward, EarthHero was born, and it was a very similar business model to my last business. So for those that are like, wow, that sounds really complicated. It can be, but I did have that sort of experience and confidence that I at least understood the business model.
And the second time is always a little bit easier than the first.
A little bit.
A little bit, right? But it's still that up and down battle. I know when we met, you were in the process of launching, and I think that was 4 or 5 years ago. And you've built an amazing company, multi-million, on its way, to amazing transformation. What is the number one lesson that you had as an entrepreneur to share with our audience, both on now and listening in later? What's the number one thing that you learned from that journey? And then I want to talk a little bit about the offer that you have for ShiftCo members.
Yeah, so it's a big question. I might answer it differently on different days, but what comes to mind right now is if you're going to start something, make sure that it really like it's not that it's just right for the world, but it's right for you, because it's going to be hard. There's going to be dark nights. There's going to be anxiety and stress that you didn't possibly believe was possible unless you get really lucky. It's just, there's going to be ups and downs and all arounds. And when you're in those sort of downs, if you choose something that, from a mission and purpose standpoint, really like you can't get rid of, it's just stuck to you. That would be the suggestion, because that's what's going to keep you going. And the only, I'm pretty convinced that when you start something, just like showing up every day, and the next day, and then just outlasting, the fight, so to speak, of getting from 0 to 1. It can be incredibly overwhelming at times, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs give up or throw in the towel or quit before they need to, because they lost interest or that passion or drive to get them through those moments. So yeah, definitely choose wisely is what I would say.
Oh boy, I totally agree with that. And I think the one of the misnomers that people have is that if you build a business that makes the world better, magically people are going to come because you're making the world better. It's still a business at the end of the day. But when you are doing the thing that is your jam, you can't quit, like this is what I'm supposed to be doing and I have to keep going. And there's nothing quite like that. And Ryan, I've said this to you before, but you're truly a role model in this industry. I hope that the folks that are connected to B Corp and conscious capitalism really pay attention to your brand. For those that invest in this space, Ryan's getting ready to kick off a wonderful capital raise experience. Definitely reach out to him on LinkedIn. For those of you that are consumers of conscious goods, I highly recommend his platform. So Ryan, share a little bit about the discount that you're giving those of us that are connected to ShiftCo.
Yeah, well, one of the things that comes up is, are these products more expensive, or these products are more expensive? And sometimes they can be. Sometimes it's an investment in consciousness, the planet, or even to stop the need to buy single-use products. So it's over time will save you money. But to help this crew take that next step, we want to give 20% off. That's site-wide. That's, I can tell you with confidence, the deepest discount we ever have, including over the Black Friday and all that. So hopefully that's something that that will be helpful for the folks that are listening and want to experiment and take a look at over 5,000 products on our site today that can help you reduce waste, save natural resources, and most importantly, I think when you start to live and shop more from this perspective, it helps your quality of life. I think you feel more connected, a little more, in line with the world, and also just feeling like you are contributing, to the movement that needs to happen.
Man, you just hit the nail on the head. And Ryan, again, I want to thank you for leading us through that simple equation of I can swap this for that. And I know you've got several tools on your website to help people make those better choices. And I thank you for sharing your vision with the ShiftCo community. And when I think of your business, I'm reminded of this quote: "Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can." And it's one of my all-time favorite quotes. That when we think about sustainability or racial inequity or poverty or hunger or homelessness, it just feels like it's so big. But if we just take our little corner of the world and we make it more sustainable, That's all we need to do, is just take that nice little step forward. So thanks, Ryan, for sharing that. And before we bring up our second spotlight, I want to share just a couple more statistics. This is also from Good Must Grow, and this was, I think, produced in January, that good behaviors are trending up during the pandemic. And again, the early release of the next quarter is showing that it's even going higher. So it's continuing, where people are choosing green choices, they're reducing their consumption, they're buying goods and services from socially responsible companies, they're contributing more. In spite of the financial impacts, people's giving is actually up, which is fascinating. So, it's one of those things, there's something about what happened in 2020 that I feel like really shook us all to the core. And one of the most fascinating studies is from the test of corporate purpose. And what they did is they looked at the Business Roundtable. I don't know if you remember that infamous report that came out, I think it was 2018, the Business Roundtable basically said, we're going to lead the way and purpose is actually important. And with the test of corporate purpose, it was born at that same time. They began studying the companies that are part of the Business Roundtable and looking at their actions, not their words. Here's what they found, that they call it purpose washing, that since the pandemic, the BRT signatories, so the folks that are in the Business Roundtable, did not outperform the S&P 500 on the test of corporate purpose. So basically, they gave a lot of words that they were going to make these choices, but when things got hard, they didn't follow through with that. And they expose in this report lots of companies that we all know, none that I'm going to name, who did not, live up to that promise, which was fascinating. Second is that companies with long track records of strong performance outperformed those, in particular because of the choices they made under the stress test. For example, they kept their employees rather than laying them off. They reduced their carbon footprint and used COVID as an opportunity to make different choices. So fascinating. Third is speed matters, that the proactive response to the pandemic and the various inequalities that have resulted from that had a very discernible positive impact. And slow responders, so people that were slow to pivot, did not do as well. Fourth is many of the US and European companies performed about the same. So there wasn't a marked difference in the US, even though the Business Roundtable companies are predominantly US. And then my favorite is this, that shareholder capitalism, which means you're beholden to shareholders, is no longer fit for purpose. And the research that they have on this is undeniable. That companies that take a stakeholder aligned view, meaning I'm going to care about the environment, I'm going to care about my people, I'm going to care about the racial inequalities, I'm going to care about sustainability, that those companies are performing better in spite of COVID. The companies that are beholden to shareholders did not perform as well. So this report is lengthy. It exposes a lot of misnomers. It really does kind of this purpose washing that occurred. It really does separate the wheat from the chaff, as my grandpa used to say. It's a fascinating report, and it's one of those things I think it's about holding us accountable to the triple bottom line. I'm going to just give you one more piece if you're not familiar with this book. This book began my purpose journey, this and a couple of others. And then I'm going to turn it over to our second spotlight, who's got the most amazing products I've ever seen. And this book by Peter Fisk really started my awakening about how to take my purpose and create a better world. And it's really people, planet, and profit. So people is, we should serve all stakeholders. I am much more accountable to my employees than I was prior to becoming a conscious business. In my past, my employees worked for me. Today, I work for my employees, and I live to support them and help them get what they want. I'm dedicated to that. To the partners, I'll go to the mat for our partners. Second is planet, and that's where companies like the ones we're featuring today are really focused. Consumers are demanding eco-friendly choices. And last is profit. If you weren't sure that even from the stats that I gave you, that you can do good and make a profit, Eric Ries is founding a stock exchange. Eric Ries is the creator of the Lean Startup. He's truly somebody that I admire, and he's calling it the long-term stock exchange. And the companies that will be listed on the stock exchange are companies that really abide by the triple bottom line, and that they're committed to stakeholder capitalism. And so it's time for us to make different choices. And I'm going to bring up our next expert. She's one of those people that just knocked my socks off when she joined Shifco. Like, there was something magical about her, not just her hair, which is different every time I see her, but her products are ingenious. And she has created a method to bring art and sustainability together for sustainable gifts. So I'm going to give you control of the screen, my friend, and you can tell us all about your magic.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Never a dull moment. I'm like multitasking and like giving my employees things to do while we're doing this. So my presentation is not going to be as like perfect and structured as Ryan's, because my brain just doesn't work that way. But I want to give you a little bit more history about PaperCraft Miracles and why I started it in the first place. I came up with the idea of this company when I was 19 years old. And when I went away to college, I initially had wanted to be a poet and a writer. And as soon as I set foot on my college campus, I just had this wild creative energy that was like, I just need to make stuff. I need to do more than just sharing writing. I need to make things with my hands. And the school had all of these amazing paper and book arts classes to learn how to make handmade paper and hand bind books and printmaking and stuff like that. So I took a whole bunch of those classes my freshman year. And at the end of my freshman year, I met with my advisor and I said, hey, these are all the classes I took this year. What major am I working towards? And he goes, well, those are all electives, so nothing. And as a kid from a family that had very little money, I was like, well, I can't have just wasted an entire year of college. I can't do 5 years. How can I make this year worth it? And my advisor was amazing. And instead of saying just major in communications and figure it out later, he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I love making things. I love writing. I love sharing my experiences with people and interacting with people. And I want to be an artist. I don't want to be broke. How do I do that? And he said, you should do that as your major. So I did. I made up my own college major, and I put entrepreneur business and creative art integrated together as one major, and spent 4 years figuring out how to make money with art. And in a way that a lot of my fellow, college student friends who were in the art department, they graduated with a 1-2 credit course that was a little bit about how to get your art in a gallery, but that's it. They had no idea how to make money with art once they graduated. And by the time I graduated, I had built a website. This is way back, like 2003, 2004. So I had built a website on Angelfire. You could not build an easily shoppable website at that point online. So that was not happening. But I had this website. I had a little print catalog that I'd made that had little samples of these handmade papers that I'd made in the back of it. I had some business cards, and I had a 20-page business plan and a 25-page thesis paper about my whole experience of learning how to be an artist that is trying not to starve, and graduated college with a business. And I was already making things and selling them to people that I knew from a little desk in the corner of my dorm room that looked pretty close to this. And since this is also right at the beginning of smartphone age and Facebook social media age and ebooks and evites and all of that stuff was starting to happen right at the same time. And I got so many people who were like, are you crazy? No one's going to write in a journal again. Everyone will be on LiveJournal. That is the future of the world. And I just knew at the time that there was something really magical about tangible things, and that a handwritten letter or writing a poem in a journal, it just has a different kind of quality. It sinks into you, it sinks into other people in a different way than it does if it's all digital. And so I kind of kept that in the back of my mind, like how important it is to physically connect with people in tangible ways. And I ended up having this business, graduating from college, coming back home to Buffalo and saying, yay, I'm ready to be a full-time artist. And like, I just didn't have the social network to make that actually happen properly. So I did it as like my fun side gig for a really long time. And after I had my first son in 2015, my day job didn't want to work with me to allow me to work from home, and they weren't paying me enough to afford healthcare and daycare. So I would go to work, pay someone else to raise my kid, come home with nothing, or I could quit my job and figure something else out. And so my husband said, go ahead, stay home with the kid and do your book thing. So this is the good like 12, 13 years after I originally started the business and had been kind of doing it as my fun side thing for a long time. And as soon as I no longer had a paycheck coming in the door, it changed my mindset about my company at all. Because for a long time, it was like, oh, if I make money, cool. If I don't, I made art and that's what I love to do. And that's also cool. But all of a sudden it was saying, this is my career. If I'm not making money, then I am no longer going to be able to retire ever. Like I need to make this the thing that I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And having a small kid and learning to be a mom and learning to rebrand and grow this company now that there was, easily shoppable websites and all these things that I had been wanting to do for a long time. I started thinking about the kind of company that I wanted my business to be. And making things out of paper has always been a relatively eco-friendly type of business. But I knew that I had the capability to take materials that typically got thrown away, or things that I could get as materials for free from other people that I knew or other local businesses, that I could then turn into new products, which would keep my cost of goods sold low and would keep those things out of the landfill. So I was like, well, that's a win-win. So the first thing I started doing was figuring out ways that I could get materials from places that would be given to me for free, and then I could make things and then make more money off of them to help grow my company. And as it started to grow more and more, I started thinking about other ways that I could affect change in the world with my business. And so I started in 2016, I started making plantable seed bombs, where they're made of recycled paper or recycled fabric, and they have seeds embedded right in them. You just dip them in water, plant them outside, and they grow. And there have been, there's a lot of Pinterest tutorials about how to make seed bombs. And if you start digging into it, you could figure out how to do it. But I wanted to figure out a way to make seed bombs and plantable items in a way that was special, to give them to someone as a gift, but that for people who don't want to have things cluttering up their house, they can get it as a gift. They feel really special. They can do something with it that then benefits the world afterwards. And so I started being really intentional about the type of seeds that we included in those. So we only do seeds that are native to North America. We wanted them to be things that could grow in most growing zones. So we have a good mix of things. There's some perennials, some annuals, that mostly the flowers work together to be good for pollinators, which is so important for the future of our food system. So we started making a lot of these seed bombs in cute little shapes. And pretty quickly, we started kind of cornering the market on seed bombs, because there's other people that make seed bombs, but ours are, I guess I would call them like luxury seed bombs if you look at them. And I started thinking more about what aspects of the world that typically people overlook sustainability as an option. And a lot of times it's weddings and events and gifts. And people just don't think about where that gift is going to end up, or where all the waste from that wedding, that one day, where all that stuff is going to end up afterwards. And so I started thinking more about ways that my company could fill that need to make it easy for people to buy a gift that someone is never going to throw away. Or if they did want to get rid of it, it's going to grow something when they get rid of it. Or that it would be easily compostable once they're done enjoying it. So I started really thinking about ways that we could inform our customers about how to have a more sustainable wedding, and things like that. And so it's been really interesting to figure out all these different ways that we can continuously kind of add sustainability into the way that we do stuff. So I'm going to share my screen and show you a little bit more beyond our actual products, but ways that our company as a whole is eco-friendly too. So we have this whole page on our website about our eco-friendly initiatives. I didn't make a fun screen deck, but I have this. So this is what you get. So in our studio, we actually have 4 recycling bins because we make paper here. So we separate them out. There's like recycling that goes out in the bin outside. And luckily here in Buffalo, New York, we have a relatively robust curbside recycling system in the city, which is really nice. So we have a bin of things that go out in the recycling bin. We have can return. We get money back for cans in New York, so we have a space to put the cans. But then we also, we separate the different kinds of paper waste that we make here in the studio. So a lot of times we've got scraps of paper that we cut when we make wedding invitations. We've got, general office paper, things like that. And then we make a lot of things out of this like kind of shimmery metallic paper. And so we actually have separate bins to keep them all sorted out. And then we take all of that paper that's to be recycled and we have storage for it in the basement in our paper making studio, where if somebody says, hey, I want green wedding invitations. So then we go down in the basement and we start pulling out all of the green paper that's in the green paper bin that we have. If they say they want paper that's a little bit shimmery, we'll take scraps from the shimmery paper and we'll turn that into new paper, and keep it all set up in our studio. We also have a partnership with a local printer who does a lot of our wedding invitation printing, and they use a lot of really high quality virgin cotton papers for their other clients. And when they have offcuts, they have a separate box at their studio and they keep all those offcuts for us. And when we go out there to give them a new project to print on, they send us back with a box full of scraps, which we then pulp, turn into new paper and send back to them to print again. So it's really an awesome way to partner with other local businesses. We have people who have flowers left over from weddings and funerals and other events, and they'll bring us those fresh flowers. We separate them all out, we dry the petals, and then we use the petals in our papers that we make here. We've gotten all sorts of donations from people. We've gotten office paper, junk mail, flyers from schools and offices and churches. We have some local florists that give us their imperfect flowers and greenery that we take and we dry those out and use them. We've got fabric scraps and yarn scraps from local tailors and stuff like that. We also use cardboard egg cartons, berry boxes that our friends and family kind of drop off to us. And we actually gotten to the point where we're like, we have enough, please chill on the waste. But we're always looking for ways to repurpose items that are really hard to reuse too. So we actually, when we started doing a lot of paper flowers in 2017 and 2018, and one of the things about the floral industry in general is like, yes, fresh flowers are grown out of the earth and they're great because they're alive. But the floral industry is really, really wasteful. I mean, you grow these flowers, you spend all this time, all this effort, all this water and fertilizer and all these things to cut these flowers and then have them die in like 2 days. And then when traditional floral shops put together these arrangements, they use this really heinous floral foam to keep all the flowers arranged in the same position. And then as soon as the flowers are dead, the whole thing gets thrown away in the garbage, and the foam is really nasty. And it's also not good to be around the foam when you're cutting it and shaping it, because it lets all these styrofoam dust out into the air, and it's not good for anybody. So I really wanted to figure out a way to avoid using floral foam at all and to repurpose other materials. So I started getting whenever our suppliers would send us packaging material that wasn't recyclable, I said, okay, let's hang on to that and see if we can use it for something else. So we started getting some styrofoam peanuts, which I hate, but they're around and they show up and people send them to you. And then what do you do with them? I don't want to just throw them out. So I started saving all of those net bags from when you get onions and avocados and lemons and stuff like that. And I figured out a way to fill the vase with these styrofoam peanuts and stretch this stretchy net bag on top of it, glue that into place, and then arrange the flowers in the little holes, so that we can avoid using floral foam and using these things that most people buy and then just chuck them in the trash and don't think about them. So it gives us a way to use those to not buy floral foam, reduce our costs, and to keep those things out of the landfill, which is super awesome. We figured out ways to use bubble mailers, like those plasticky bubble mailers that we get whenever you order things from literally almost anyone. We figure out ways to use those when we make flowers, and a lot of stuff like that. Other things that we do, we are run almost entirely on solar power. So the picture that you can see right here is the roof of our building. It's also my home. We live upstairs and the studio is downstairs. We've recently expanded. So now we have almost 3,000 square feet between 2 floors. And so as you can see, we have 64 solar panels up on there, fairly large ones. And luckily our building is very tall. It's taller than any of our neighboring buildings. The roof is perfectly pitched. It faces directly south and there are no trees that block it at all. So we get really, really great usage out of our solar panels. We produce about 90% of what we use in this whole building, an 8,000 square foot building, and that includes central air in the whole building, which ideally I wouldn't like to use, but because of the way the building is set up, we don't have a lot of windows that open, because it's kind of commercial space, so it's like plate glass windows and stuff. So we need to have the central air or we're gonna roast in here. So it's nice that we can produce the power that will offset that during the summer. We also, if you can kind of see right here, this is a solar hot water system. And it's comprised of a system of tubes that water cycles through them all day long. And as the sun heats up these little amounts of water at a time, we have a storage tank that it kind of cycles through this thing, it warms up, it goes in the storage tank. And then when we turn the hot water on, it takes that water that's been pre-warmed and just warms it up to whatever level we've asked it to be warmed to. So it really cuts down on the amount of energy that we use to have hot water as well. So I did already talked a little bit about how we make plantable paper and plantable seed bombs and things like that. So a lot of those are made, all of our seed bombs are made either of 100% recycled paper or fabric pulp. And any of the fabric ones, we have some seed bombs that grow food. So we have some that grow vegetables and some that grow herbs and things like that. So for those, we really try not to use recycled paper, because a lot of traditional wood pulp machine-made papers have a lot of like funky pigments and chemicals and things that you wouldn't want to introduce into your garden bed. For flowers, it's not that big a deal because it's all typical things you could throw into a compost. But when we're trying to grow food, we tried to keep it as pure as possible. So we actually use cotton lincture for our herb and vegetable seed bombs. And then that material is a byproduct of making cotton fabric. And it's just kind of like the leftover fluffy stuff when they've made all this fabric. And then we turn that into pulp, and it is bleached. But the material that they use, the bleaching process that they use, it neutralizes itself. So by the time it's going into the ground, there is no bleach like left in the material. So we tried to do that. And
That's very cool.
Yeah. We've tried to make it as easy as possible for consumers to make easy choices, similar to how EarthHero is doing that. All of our packaging is also compostable. The packaging that we put our products in and our shipping materials. We're working on converting the shipping tape. You have to get like a special thing for like the ultra compostable tape, and you have to get it wet. And there's the machine is expensive, so I haven't yet switched to compostable tape, but it's on my list. But we found these clear plastic compostable packages to put our seed bombs in, because we could put them in like a brown paper, craft paper thing, but you know, it's tricky in the world to market products where people aren't familiar with what seed bombs are, And the whole point of our seed bombs is that they're cute and you want to buy them for someone as a special gift. So we really wanted the product to be able to delete.
John, I think we might have lost you. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear
Yeah.
you, Terry.
Yeah, for some reason we lost her. I'm going to go ahead and pick up where we left off. And we've got one more speaker to share what I believe is one of the best investments around coming up. And, you know, I think with him as well, you're going to hear the same theme of, you know, that I'm being driven by something different, you know, something bigger, something different, something bigger. You might not know this, but purposeful companies outperform the stock market by 42%. And in the area of sustainability and solar, I really do believe it's truly one of the best investments around. So Michael, tell us a little bit about your pathway into conscious entrepreneurship with solar advisory.
Thanks, Terry. And unfortunately, just for everybody, in 4 minutes, I'm due on an environmental justice panel here in Dallas. So I'm going to be fast. My journey started probably when I was a student at the University of Texas in weird Austin, Texas. And that's how it started. And then having 4 kids and just kind of getting in touch with my inner hairy environmentalist over the years led me to get into clean energy in 2010. So very driven to help clean up the world one solar panel at the time, meaning clean up our air because it's terrible. And we can't accept that our kids and our parents and everybody else just have to go to allergists and pulmonologists because we could solve the problem, but we don't. We treat it with medicine, unfortunately. So that was my driver. And so I'm going to go through these pretty quick. You can go on, Terry. I think what is solar energy? We'll skip here and go ahead and fill this up. Here's really the most important thing I want to convey to y'all. And man, everything we've heard in this first 57 minutes has been incredible about why Jana, why Ryan, and it's just awesome and similar here. And the thing about solar that people need to understand, and this is where I find people are often way behind the curve, is first, it is really popular, and that's across the board with everybody. So that's good. People like to do things that are popular because then they don't feel so scared or fearful. And then solar is gotten incredibly less expensive. I mean, look at this thing, you know, remember 10 years ago or 15 years ago? I mean, we're carrying computers in our pockets. It's crazy. Same thing in solar, technology driven value proposition increasing dramatically as that graph depicts. And super important then in the business world, there is so much money available to finance a solar project, whether it's on any of your homes, or in my case, I serve only commercial and industrial properties. That's my work. So I'm doing B2B solar. Think of it that way. There's so much money. So the bottom line to this is, and you can go on to the next slide, Terry, is there's no reason really not to implement solar. And I've got a couple builds here if you want to hit the key. And one more. And there's, depending on how you do it, and this is just one approach, you can get incredible year one tax savings for 0 down. You heard that right, people. The point is that you can finance solar for no money down because there's all that capital I mentioned in the market to help solar people think about solar, get it done. And then you got long-term operational savings. So it's got a killer short and long-term value proposition, and everybody's going to love you for it. You know, the brand value is a whole nother matter. That can be a whole nother lengthy discussion, which is what we've been hearing this whole time in this hour. It's about what matters and people thinking this way now as not just our B2C consumers like we all are, but also business executives who need to make these big capital decisions for their properties. Yeah, and these are some of the attributes that are part of the value proposition, financial, and getting into some of the brand qualitative matters with companies I deal with. And let's go on a couple more here, Terry. You can skip that one. And then here's the thing, the stuff just works. It's really boring. It doesn't have moving parts like solar, so it's not sexy. I mean, sorry, like wind, right? Where people go, wow, look at those wind turbines. Solar has none of that. But the stuff just works. 20, 25-year warranties. Who's ever heard of that? And then finally, skip on a couple more, Terry, before I dash off. Keep going, please. And one more. And one more. It's happening now. This is what's really important. And this is right here, what I really want to point out. And this is what I tell people I speak with, business owners and property owners, is Target, Walmart, all these massive brands, they have de-risked this. They've taken the risk out. They are doing this to the tune of billions of dollars. And they've got shareholders that would yell at them if it didn't work. And it does work. So if you're a local property, commercial property owner like I'm dealing with, these guys have taken all the risk out. Do it. It works. You're going to get the value. And I'm here to serve you and help take you down that whole journey with other people that need to actually deliver it. So, and then skip a couple more. There, stop right there. Sorry. I just want to end on this. What's the downside, people? You know, we build a better world for nothing. I try to be humorous as well because I'm in old school fossil fuel Texas, so I've got to keep my sense of humor. I am eager to connect with any of y'all who might ever want to talk about this further. But Terry, my apologies. I'm already 1 minute late for my environmental justice panel. I should be there. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Michael. And thanks, everybody. Sorry we ran a bit over. You can find Michael on LinkedIn, or his company is Solar Advisory. Basically, what Michael helps companies do is make the pivot to solar. And if you rent building space, you should inquire about whether or not they're going solar. If you own a business property, you absolutely should talk to Michael because he can help walk your company through that. And sorry that he didn't have enough time. I'll just end with, you know, we do different events every week. There's something different. Next week is going to be the entrepreneurial mindset. The week after that is how do you really get your business growing using photography? I want to thank our 3 guest speakers today, Ryan from EarthHero, and Jana from PaperCraft Miracles, and Michael from Solar Advisory. I hope that each of you will do as I have done, which is committing to walk the talk and to make better choices. Thanks, everybody.